Transmission is go. Underbase is live.
Hello ladies and gents, welcome to the Underbase. My name is Adam, 88M, and we are back with Transformers vs. GI Joe issue 7. The issue which is defeating, I think, a fair few reviewers. Joining me is Mr. Joe Teanby. Hello, sir.
How do? You alright, Adam?
I'm not bad. Are you prepared for this one?
Now I've read it a few times, I am more than ready for it, yeah.
It gets a bit dark, doesn't it?
Just a bit.
Think of this, folks, as Spotlight Scarlet. Because that's pretty much what this is. I don't think there's been an issue where the Transformers have featured so much that the emotion, the emphasis is all with one character. So anyway, the story so far, there is no G.I. Joe. The Transformers are a myth. It was all lies. Transformers vs. G.I. Joe issue 7 Headmasters, written by Tom Scioli and John Barber, art, colours and lettering by Tom, production Chris Mowry, edits by Carlos Guzman, and we have 3 covers. The standard cover is Ultra Magnus, laid flat against what looks like a meteor. Has he been attacked by a rock lord? With Joe's and Cobra forces all around him, art by Tom. The subcover is Prime and Soundwave, who seem aghast as humanized Seeker cosplayers finally become official canon. Starscream appearing to be about to sue, art by Joe Quinian. And the retail incentive cover is Badass Screamer by Cody Chamberlain. Joe, what do you think to these?
I kind of like all of them in their own different ways. I like the standard cover the best, definitely. Just because it's great to see a toy accurate Ultra Magnus,
yep,
which you never see. And I always like when Tom does his giant robots covered in GI Joes. I just think that looks awesome. And I'm not sure what's going on with that rock, but that asteroid or whatever, but it just looks great. The subcover, that's pretty sweet. Good nod to cosplaying and also G1. Mm-hmm. I'm not as keen on the retail, but I think I'm not too much of a fan of the colours of it, really. It just looks a bit sort of, I don't know, a bit mucky sort of, I guess.
Oh,
how about you? Which one?
I'm kind of the flip. Firstly, it comes back to this age-old adage that we tend to have on the Underbase, which is your favourite cover, and which cover accurately reflects what's going on inside the issue?
None of them.
None of them. Not a single one. And if you think about it, it's like you've got one of them features Magnus, who doesn't appear. The next one features Prime, who does appear, but in a very different way. Soundwave, who doesn't. Screamer, who doesn't. Snake Eyes, who doesn't. Storm Shadow, who doesn't. Cobra Commander, who doesn't. So we might as well rule that one out. And then the third cover, or is he? And then the third cover is, I really like that dirty, filthy Screamer. I mean, it looks as though he's just crawled out of a tar pit. But it's kind of offset by the fact that once again, Screamer isn't in this. So, and also when Screamer is in this, he's obviously got half a faceplate on. Because of the welding job that he did in previous issues. So it's all a bit mucky, really.
But on that cover, they have slapped on a Cobra logo, so, you know, it sort of ties in, kind of.
It does, yeah. Quake can get a stock photo. What can we add to it? Cobra, that'll do. We'll see. So, yeah, very, very quick breakdown of what happened last issue.
Accurate, though.
Yeah, Joe's got captured in this ongoing crazy situation that Tom's dreamt up, with John sort of trying to vaguely steer him in one direction. And the end of last issue, you had Scarlet waking up, and she's being treated in a hospital. And apparently the Joes and the Transformers are merely toys. And this whole thing is a delusion on her part. And the Doctor? Well, the Doctor happens to bear a particular resemblance to a certain Cobra enemy named Dr. Mindbender. So, what happens next? Well, We start off with our doctor trying to get his confused patients to start her treatment. The exact process isn't exactly clear. It looks like a mixture of shock therapy and almost a super soldier casket. The patient, who's called Shana, Scarlett's real name in the comics, is dragged into the machine by two orderlies, and the doctor refers to the apparatus as a dream machine. Now, we know that this patient is Scarlet. We know that Doctor is Mindbender. We know this is another one of his tricks. Scarlet's dream, though, when she hits the machine, involves a battle with possible Cobra Snake Men, a toy Bumblebee head, what appears to be Mind Wipe, though that might just be the term, and also as well some sort of like Holy Ghost Optimus Prime, almost like an old style Ultra Magnus. Maybe that's the way that Ultra Magnus appears in this issue. He's just there naked.
She seems to be praying as well. And Ghost Prime appears.
That's the intriguing thing, is that this opening scene, you've got this dream sequence. You don't know exactly what's real and what's not. I'll tell you what, I'll keep going and then we'll come back to this.
Yeah.
So the treatment is done. Shanna is wheeled past what I assume to be the infants that Tunnel Rat was talking about. These humans possibly being grown in a lab. And the doctor and his patient meet a scientist, Dr. B, who has apparently upgraded her Xbox to a Bumblebee design. At one point in the world, all scientific stations played cartoons in the background.
Cool.
Dr. B is clearly a fan of Transformers and GI Joe. Scarlet herself in the comic form is in the top of one of those monitors. And B is there being very chirpy and all G1 going, "Hi, I'm Bumblebee." Very, very weird. Also, while she's in the lab as well, she glances Billy. Billy appears in the free comic book day sort of double page poster that Tom did. Billy is apparently the son of Cobra Commander. He had a bit of a disagreement with Snake Eyes, and he lost an arm and a leg, literally. They've now apparently grafted them like cybernetic ones onto him, but they've done, rather than sort of making them appear as a natural pose, they do look a little bit awkward.
Just a bit.
He looks like a clothes horse.
He's trying to do the YMCA by himself.
It is the ultimate in Perceptor kicks.
I don't know about you, but I didn't expect the couple of pages in Free Comic Book Day of RID to actually have any effect on the story of this. Did you?
No, and that might work against it, because that
was like a one-off.
Yeah, the people buying this comic, let's face it, a lot of Transformer fans aren't buying this comic. It's other people. It's people who like Tom's stuff. It's people who like the Joe stuff. It's older fans who remember this style. And a lot of those guys aren't picking up the Free Comic Book Day. I know a couple of Joe fans, no idea that this was in there. So when they see this, it's not a bad intro to the character, because he's a mysterious guy with an awkward arm and leg combo. He manages to communicate with Scarlet via some sort of telepathy. And Scarlet refers to him as an Arashikage, which is the ninja clan that Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow come from.
I did not know that.
So she's clearly picking stuff up. I did not know that either. Thank you, Wikipedia. We then jump to a scene where the doctor is interrogating, in a way, his patient. It's a therapy session, folks. But we know that there's more serious things at play here. And it's beautifully done, because we're talking very meta here. The doctor goes, "What is GI Joe?" GI Joe is a cartoon for children. What is Cybertron? A nonsense word invented to tie together several unrelated robot toys into a single advertising narrative created in a boardroom by three toy executives named Cy, Bert, and Ron.
That went over my head the first time I read it as well. I don't know how I missed that.
It's crazy, because, I mean, the Cybert and Ron is obviously fiction, but that's what Transformers was. It was two different toy lines mashed together with a narrative wrapped around them all. So, yeah, the Doctor is playing into what we already know. Now, Scarlet seems to pass this process. She seems to pass the test. It seems that she's completely following the Doctor's lead, she recognizes that GI Joe and Transformers is false, that it's all just an illusion, and because of that, she wins something. She wins her freedom. And her freedom is to be reunited with her husband and kids. Yes, folks. Scarlet, in real life Shanna, apparently has a husband and 2 kids. Because a woman is apparently nothing without a domestic role. Right, so big section at the beginning there. Joe, what do you think to the start of all of this? Because previous issues, we've jumped around all over the place. This was sticking with one thing, though we're sticking a lot of fancy elements in there.
I might say this a lot, just I didn't expect certain things to happen in this issue. Like, I thought at the end of last issue, that would be just it. It'd just be wrapped up in it. It'd just be sort of the end of issue 6 would just be swept away with maybe a couple of panels or something.
Yeah. I
didn't think this entire issue would focus on that. And it's kind of mind blowing, really. It's like you just diving in feet first into, you don't know where you are. You just plunged into sort of, I don't know, just confusion. What the hell is going on?
We've jumped so much in previous issues, and this is a stylistic thing which has lost a lot of fans. We've jumped from one random scene to another, to another, to another. By the end of the issue, you don't know where you are. We start this one, and this has got a narrative. This is a story.
It's somehow still confusing.
It's still confusing because they're sticking in all these random elements. But it is incredibly freaky.
The thing is, though, it sucks you in. You want to know what's going on. It feels like some sort of movie. It's like even the first panel there, that thing reminded me of the seat that Arnie sits in Total Recall.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that. It really did. You know, the head thing and all the straps. There's a few things through the issue that remind me of films. But yeah, it's just so weird. You don't know where you are, but it does suck you in, and you want to know what's going on. You're like, what is this? Like the thing with the babies. It's like, oh, they're so this is where you make babies. It's like, well, that's one way to phrase it. It's like, what? Just had no idea what was going on. But yeah, you're right. But this is just all focusing on the Scarlet story, so it should be easier to follow, but it's kind of not.
It's the stuff in the background that's the dark stuff. So like the babies we pass, and the idea of what they possibly are, really horrific. That's it. That's all we see this issue. So we know that whatever else happens, Cobra still has those babies.
Yeah.
We get this dream sequence, and we've got an image of Mindwipe. Now, whether that is meant to be showing Scarlet's mind being wiped, or maybe seeing a part of the technology, or maybe sort of inferring that maybe Mindwipe has contributed something to this machine.
Tom likes to do that, though. He likes to give introductions with, you've not seen this character before, here's a name. It's like, I think it happens quite a few times, and as well with the file cards that come up with the GI Joes and everything.
Yeah.
But with this Mindwipe, I just got the impression that, they've deployed Mindwipe to try and, just get her to believe that she's part of this world. But I don't know what is going on with the praying to the Ghost Prime there.
No idea at all.
Totally confused.
Then we move on as well to the Bumblebee head, which is slightly redesigned, definitely more sort of G1 friendly, and appears to be the genuine thing, which would explain why Megatron didn't have B around his neck last time.
But who's holding Bumblebee's head? Who's those fingers? And why?
That could be.
Or is that because it's meant to? I think it is, isn't it?
It's part dream sequence and part premonition of what happens at the end.
Yeah.
And it's a nice way of doing it, and we'll come back to that later.
Freaky.
And then, of course, we have Billy, who we've already covered, and then we're back to, well, Scarlet getting her freedom and this idea that she's both a wife and a mother. Now, since the beginning of the series, Joe, you like me, we're not G.I. Joe fans.
Sort of, kind of, maybe, a little bit.
Yeah, it's one of those things you pick up on, but you're not like hardcore, like,
yeah.
I love my Duke or roadblock or whatever. But what I did get from this in this series was that Scarlet was a very driven person.
Yeah.
It's just that this is one of the crutches of this issue. Scarlet towing the line and being a wife and a mother instantly makes you realize that this is wrong. At the beginning of this issue, I didn't know exactly what was going on. I thought, well, maybe this is like a big meta switch and maybe they're all imaginary and yeah, maybe this is heading towards the end of the series. That could be it. They all wake up. But as soon as they introduced the kids and the husband, I was like, no, this is a really obvious trap and she's got to work her way out of it.
I wasn't sure if she was faking it or not there as well.
Yeah, I wasn't either.
I don't know if that wasn't quite obvious to me.
And we jump to the next scene where that's almost driven home because they're in this domestic life. We see Scarlet in the supermarket in the town of Springfield. Now, Joe fans will know this straight off because Springfield was a town that they used in the original Joe series where Cobra faked a village and stuck one of the Joes in the village and tried to persuade him that this was reality and that he needed to give up his secrets to protect people. So Springfield is a big kind of sign for all GI Joe fans. Of course, for Transformer fans, it might as well be where the Simpsons live. So
that's what I thought.
You see Homer Turner. They're in Apu's place right now. But she's shopping and the shelves behind her, she can see products in front of her, but behind her, the shelves are all green, they're monotone, and all she can see is skulls. I didn't realize at the time, but these are ghosts, and they are ghosts whispering to her in an alien tongue. And they say, unfinished business, this town was built atop the Neblos home. And
we'll find out who they are later, don't we?
Well,
but that
as
was
soon as you
trippy.
see Neblos, I was like, really? Is that the route they're going? Oh, and the kid's holding a small GI Joe toy. So Scarlet thought she had any mental issues. And let's face it, if you've been brainwashed, you don't always know what's right and what's wrong. One of the ways that you could probably confirm it is if you ever find yourself talking to a dog. Because that's what Scarlet ends up doing. The next shot is of her talking to a neighborhood dog, admittedly a rather familiar one. And Scarlet confides that you're the only one that I can trust here. Help me put our team back together. Dogs make great agents. They are universally welcomed, able to cross borders with ease. Nobody suspects a dog. Trust me, if you come back from doing something and the meat pie that you had cooling has disappeared, the first person you suspect is a dog. Doesn't matter how innocent that dog looks. This darkness, though, you know, we say about this kind of like this dark undercurrent to the issue. Next panel is Scarlet just doing the dishes.
With a blacked out face.
With a blacked out face. And she looks so tense. And the guy is feeding her information. It's like an actor going, wasn't meant to tell you this, but we're putting together a party. A surprise party to welcome you back. Hooray!
I thought she would just, why she looked so tense, she's just thinking, it's 2015, why am I still doing this? Get a dishwasher, come on.
Well, I thought what she was saying is, hang on, we're 2 adults in this house and 2 kids. Why on earth do we have so many plates?
I'm washing and drying.
Yeah. But later on that night, and this is where I started to get just really weirded out by this whole thing. Scarlet takes a rather strong step. She looks in the mirror. She takes a pair of clippers and she shaves half of her hair off.
She's doing a Britney Spears.
It feels like it, doesn't it? She shaves half off, and I believe she then shaves the other. No, she doesn't. Not yet. She's just shaved half of it off. I think they're going to be obviously going towards the mohawk look. Thomas said that he really liked the old 80s Storm, which I agree with. But at the moment, she's literally just lopped half her hair off. And underneath it, there is what looks like a small stitched wound, mostly healed. And in quite a gross scene, she picks it apart. She opens it up. She exposes something buried just beneath the skin in her skull to the air. She then takes an appliance, snips the end off, plugs it in, takes the life wire, and shoves it into her head. Kids, it goes without saying, don't try this at home. Well, at least we get a cheer for the issue, because a gentleman appears. And it wouldn't matter if he was just in wireframe only or if he was in full colour. You know what it is. There's the hat. It's not at a cocked angle, but there's the hat and the shades. It's General Flag. Good to have the General back. Looking
Sweet.
all sort of, it's like the General Flag goes Tron.
Yeah, that's like the old background that always used to go with the Transformers in the cartoon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Almost that sort of grid effect.
Nicely done.
But it strangely looks digital, though, the rest of the issue, doesn't it?
It's an interesting effect. I think, Tom has used a digital effect in the sort of the red, the warm spot where the general is, the kind of heat around him. That's good. But the rest of it is, just old fashioned, looks like just white pencil on dark card. So it's nicely done. But yeah, the general is quite tough with her straight off the bat, saying that she needs to get out of there. She needs to get the team out. She needs to do something. And Scarlet's more hesitant. We won't be in a position this good again. It took me ages to get here. She wants to almost stay in. She wants to take care of business. So there needs to be a balancing act. And the rest of the issue is how that's achieved. We then cut to the party. The party, not just for Shanna, it appears, but also kind of bringing in other people as well, because we see a whole bunch of GI Joes. We see the team that was captured with Scarlet: Gung Ho, Alpine, Beachhead, Steeler, Dusty, Quick Kick, and Mutt. So they're all there, but the enemy is there too. And that's clearly an issue. You can understand Scarlet wanting to go to all of her friends and go, look, you've been brainwashed. But if they won't believe her, and if the enemies are all around, there's not too much she can do. She does, however, go over to Mutt and just have a little word. Nothing major, but she's just trying to give him a little bit of information, try and prod him down the right path, so to speak, just to do something. And I think it works. I don't know about you, Joe, but I think he does have his suspicions.
He hesitates.
He hesitates. And the big thing as well is that just after Scarlett's spoken to him, as she's kind of gotten that point across, her fake husband comes in and tries to split them up. And then asks Mutt, what did she say? And Mutt then says, no, nothing weird. He clearly, maybe even if it's a subconscious level, he thinks that something's going on. We then get Mutt walking home, and a certain dog poking its head round the corner, looking rather comical.
Yeah, it's kind of comedy, that's it. That panel.
So this is sorry, go on, mate.
I was just going to say, the art seems different on this page. The party, where it's all seems like the outlook there, to give sort of a weird sort of party vibe. It just seems different.
It does.
Seems sort of hazy.
It does, yeah. The lines are all a lot looser. Nothing is very defined. So it feels like the sort of environment where you've got a lot of noise, a lot of sound, a lot of light going on, probably a lot of booze. Yeah, a lot of balloons. I don't know how much time Tom spent with those balloons. I hope that some of them are he's not just drawn each of them out, but I probably has, knowing him. But yeah, it does. It also has its own feel as well. The whole page is kind of drawn in pinks and warm colours, offset by the orangey red of Scarlet and her hubby's hair. So, and then the bottom of the page, you've got one panel with nothing at all, just Mutt. So he's in nice clear white space, and then the next thing you know, he's outside and you've got the blues kicking in. And we get it's like a lovely little mosaic page. Mutt and Junkyard, because that is his dog. He's known this dog for yonks. The dog knows it's Mutt. Mutt doesn't recognise Junkyard because he's still quite brainwashed. Junkyard bothers Mutt until Mutt tries to scare him off, hits him with the newspaper, and then Junkyard just leaps at Mutt.
It hits him with the comic, doesn't it? Hits him with the comic that we're reading.
Yeah, that's the Magnus cover.
The standard cover.
I don't believe it.
It's like, I just, when I notice that, I'm like, what? What is going on? So there's that, and as well with his dog, with about 20 legs in like a real comedy style, just going, rat.
You know, the interesting thing is he could have saved himself so much hassle if instead of hitting the dog, he just opened up the issue and saw what was going to happen next. It'd be so much easier. But that would be like Inception, and then we'd all, like, our eyes would all start bleeding. But yeah, Junkyard lands on Mutt and starts licking his face. And at that moment, I don't know if Mutt remembers everything, but he certainly remembers holding a very, very junkyard dog in his arms with the little puppy licking his face. So
that's cute. That's with a puppy junkyard. Yeah.
Oh, we all
wagging his tail.
So I hope you people enjoyed that moment of levity and cheer, because it starts to go a little bit downhill from here. So back at Shanna's home, obviously Scarlet, the facade is rather suddenly dropped. Scarlet goes over to her hubby, who was lying on the sofa, and gives him what he thinks at first is a neck massage. Actually, it's her lining up her hands so that she can slit his throat violently. Blood everywhere. At that point, the kids come out with the same sort of mummy, mummy greeting that they'd greeted her with before. And Scarlet, you know, the dad is there. The corpse of the dad is there. The kids have to have known what she's done. And really coldly, Scarlet just drops down and says, you know, if I ever have real kids, I hope they're as good as you two. She's completely dismissing them. She has no affection for them at all. They are cold, they are not hers, and she clearly thinks there's something wrong with them. And the next shot we see is Scarlet leaving that house in flames with the kids inside.
Harsh.
When you saw that, did you think she killed them?
Yeah, definitely.
And did you think that the kids were human?
By that point, it wasn't until that previous page where she slits her hubby's throat. Yeah. It wasn't until that point that I started to realise exactly what was going on, because up until this point I was just thinking, what? I was just in a state of confusion, trying to piece it all together, and then this is where it all became apparent to me. And then I thought, yeah, it's all a facade. Yeah. She's gone and torched the place.
So, and she's walking out, you know, like, I hate to say it, there is an element of Furiosa in this. And it's not just because that happened to be at the cinema recently. It's just that Scarlet looks like she's going to war in this. She walks outside of the house and she's met by Mutt and Junkyard. And it looks like a couple of other Joes as well. And as he gives her a sort of Hell Hydra-esque Yo Joe, it's clear that these guys are going to break out. They're going to make a break for it. The next page we get is fun. It's a double page splash. We don't really get many of these with Transform GI Joe. And when we do, there's often an element as well where there's extra panels in there. You don't often get a full page. You don't get it here, but you get enough of a splash. And it's the Autobots. It's the Autobots that were captured with the Joes. Here's the problem though, folks. The Autobots are kind of stuck in their position. They're stuck in, well, they refer to them as almost being asleep. So they're using them as vehicles. And that's a good thing. That's great. And to be honest, they probably would get away with it because admittedly they are using like Inferno, which is a possible human vehicle when charging down the street at God knows how many miles an hour. RC, kind of unbelievable really, because it's a weird pink kind of sports car and you would get some attention. But ladies and gentlemen, they have freaking Sea Spray. Sea Spray, a hovercraft, bombing down the road, firing guns at cops.
Why not? It's just good to see Sea Spray.
Sea Spray's getting so much love. Just brilliant. So, cops fire on them. They shoot back. Cops block the entrance to a tunnel, and Inferno just knocks them aside. It's like they're dinky toys. Up until this point, even with Scarlet stuff, I wasn't that thrown by what they were doing. This is when it gets weird.
You were following it all right up until this point.
I'd got most of it, yeah.
Did I hear?
Yeah, most of it. I understood a large chunk of it, as much as I ever do with Transformers GI Joe. But then this threw me for a couple of days. I don't know why. So, right, let's get this, because this is genius as well. This makes perfect sense, actually. First up, the Joes reveal that while they made a break, Scarlet actually elected to go back. So she's got a final meeting with the Doctor planned. You know, it's like a dosage of revenge, I think. And so they make the comment, the General lets Scarlet get away with murder, which is really dark in context. Then the Joes hurtle out at the other end of that tunnel that we were talking about. And that's when we realize there was a town, there was a tunnel. However, the town was fake, and the town was built on a large construction. And the tunnel was actually the way out of the construction. It was built on the back of Scorponok. And Scorponok had already been described as the Decepticon City of Madness. That's what they'd done. They built a fake village. They'd stuck the Joes in it. Scorponok had driven them crazy and mad and allowed them to believe this stuff was, you know, the real world. Now they're trying to get out of it. So we've got this huge double page splash of a proper sized Scorponok, like hefty huge, being faced down by Prime, who just turned up in the last episode, you know, with that bumblebee with Venom still as the head of it. You've got Scorponok there with a village on his back, and then his tail was the tunnel out. So Inferno, RC, and Sea Spray suddenly appear from Scorponok's tail, and it's all just kicking off. What did you make of this?
I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was awesome. It's like it's just a reinvention of like the Transformers that we've known for like 30 years. It's like what this comic's done with Metroplex, with Grimlock, with other characters. It's like, yeah, Scorponok's, he also transforms into a city. Yeah, he's a giant scorpion, but it turns into a city. How can we use this in this story? And it's like, they've put him in like his, the town on the Truman Show. That's basically what it is, and that's what this entire issue kind of reminded me of. Yeah. And it's just so inventive. I just thought, wow, what a cool idea.
Absolutely. It works. I mean, the first time I saw it, I couldn't make head or tail of it. And then I went through it again, and yeah, just the idea of using Scorponok, who is known as a city format, as a place to put a city makes, wonderful. And what they're doing is they're trying to, the Decepticons and Cobra are trying to engage and trap the bots, the human allies, at a small level in a controlled environment so they can do stuff to plan for the future. And this is the perfect way to set them up. And all along, let's face it, last issue we knew where these guys were going on the train. We knew they were coming here. We just kind of forgot in the meantime. So,
on the Astro train.
On the Astro train, yeah. So as the humans pile out, by the way, as they escape that tunnel, what's left of Scorponok's will or confusion over them disappears. And that's the same for the Autobots. They kind of wake up, which is just in time because Optimus Prime is there and he gives them the sort of call to arms. Everybody responds. The only one who seems to bug clear is Venom, who at that point kind of stretches himself out of Bumblebee and goes running for the hills. And if you read the summary in the back of the issue, you'll know that there was a little bit extra planned for the Venom in this issue, but that clearly is going to be held off for another month. Back with Scarlet, and she hits the lab. She chases off Dr. B, who's apparently in it only for the research, and goes after Mindbender. And yeah, again, at this point as well, we assume that the Bumblebee head is the real Bumblebee head. Because Venom is leaving, so we've got an opportunity here to stick B back together. Which I never thought I would ever see that.
When we saw Megatron last issue, had he taken Bumblebee's head off?
I
can't remember.
He had, and we made a point, or I made a point of I didn't know where it was.
Yeah, I think it was that the review we did that got lost. It was, wasn't it?
No, I think it was the review after that. I think it was my solitary.
Was it your solo one?
Yes, my solo. I said to myself, I wondered where Bumblebee was, and I agreed. Yes, I didn't know either. So I thought it was very interesting, and then I forgot about it. The Joe reviews have been really lonely. So she chases B off. Dr. B disappears. I don't know who that is. I even looked on Chris's wiki, the TF wiki thing, and I don't think he's put anything down for it. But with her out of the way, there's only one person left. It's the Doctor. She's going to have her showdown. She confronts the Doctor with a bow and arrow. He has a machine gun. She still wins. She's like some sort of Amazonian. And as the Doc leaves, he gets one of the best lines of the issue. He refers to her as, where he says, "You're a doll, Shanna. You're a doll that nobody wanted. And for that reason alone, you are rare and valuable." It's like
mint in box.
A mint into a box. Yeah, it's a nice little kind of meta way. I would be intrigued to see if there was a toy modelled on this version of Scarlet and whether this one was worth a lot of money. So yeah, the Doc makes a run for it. He doesn't get very far. Scarlet gets distracted for a brief moment by the metal constructs that were once her kids. I really hope these are metal.
It's kind of
Go on.
Cute.
Yeah, it's kind of like bronzed small Terminators, but mixed with sort of Pinocchio, Geppetto, kind of that style of wooden puppets.
You don't see what happens to them either. I don't think she gets rid of them. These sort of Terminator-esque kids, does she?
Well, you never see anything. I mean, there's a couple of points in this issue where we don't see. It's only inferred to us by what Tom and John say at the end of the issue. But it looks like that she does get rid of them. Don't know how she takes them down. Maybe at the end of this, we'll see them still wandering about. Yeah,
I think we'll see them again.
Do you
some sort of?
Do you think that they're loyal to her?
Yeah, in that panel, I think they do. I mean, it looks like they're trying to stop her, but they're shouting out "Mummy," aren't they? So.
Mummy, Daddy's gone insane.
Unsure as to what entirely is going on. Yeah.
It is weird. We jump then to a page. Well, it's following on from there, but the look, it's all like lurid neon. As Scarlet takes the Doctor down, she almost cuts his head into as well. She slams the sword down towards him, cutting his glasses off his face. A Mindbender at this point reveals that the entire reason for the village and the brainwashing was for thought weapons. You start with limbs and biomechanics and you end up with soldiers that can remotely take down entire defense grids with their minds. And it turns out Megatron wants to decrypt life itself. Which probably means he wants to make like a poison against it or something.
Well, it's going back to Megatron's meeting with Destro, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, yeah.
This biomechanical god thing.
Find that all very interesting. Looking forward to that.
Mm.
So, I like as well where she's got the sword against his glasses and chops one half off, so he's revealed there that he's got his monocle, like his Dr. Mindbender monocle.
Oh, you know what?
Cool.
I did not even realise that for a moment.
I've only just noticed that now. Like, this is like fourth read of this.
Yeah,
it's same story, innit? They're always finding new things with the comic.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. I mean, just like Mindbender's explanation for all of this as well and how things are going. I like though what she does with him here, because Mindbender's giving all this exposition and she's just calmly strapping him in the machine to get a dose of what he's done to other people. He is left witnessing his own nightmare. He is left, he says as his stomach makes odd, awkward noises, he is left staring at this large strand of DNA, over which he's seeing heroes, He's seeing Kubla Khan, he's seeing Mordred, Neo, Hitler, Rasputin, Caligula.
Osama.
Bonaparte, Dracula's there. Like Christopher Lee's Dracula. So, he's obviously got some pretty twisted heroes, but at that point, he's been finally revealed. We all know who he is, and so it's now that Tom gives us Dr. Mindbender's ID card. Because he's not been himself. He's been the Doctor for all of this.
We've all known, haven't we?
We've all known, yeah. But it's nice as well that we get his interests, which are mind control, makes sense. Interrogation, makes sense. Wrestling, no. Dentistry, what? Just what?
That was his. That's what he originally went to university for.
He was originally a dentistry student, and he just couldn't hack it anymore.
Yeah, there wasn't the money in it for him. He had to turn to Cobra and mind washing people.
I'll tell you what, they probably wouldn't let him practice dentistry with that moustache, because he would have to have that like caged up. It would be so unhygienic. It'd be terrible.
With his pecs on display as well.
With his love of wrestling. Wrestling does not really help you keep your teeth, by the way. One does not help the other. Scarlet takes the Doctor down though, and we see as well the exterior of what's happening. Scarlet walking away, the Doctor has one of Scarlet's swords sticking out from his chest. He is dying. He's dying whilst viewing his own hellish imagination of him dying. What a way to go. As Scarlet stumbles out of there. Now, she's looking quite on herself. I mean, she's got half her head shaved. She's wearing the sort of green warrior attire. She's got a bow and arrow. She's got a large sword. And she's still in the city as well, remember, folks. She's still in this place of illusion and madness. She sees a floating General Hawk. The hat is askew, which is good. But she's seeing these ghosts as well. The ghosts are still there. The ghosts are pushing her forward to do something. And she thinks, as we do, that there are no more tricks for her. There is nothing more to surprise her. And then we get, I think, the page of the series so far. It's a splash page. It's a full splash page. There's not even a panel. It is just a drawing. And Scarlet faces herself. It's a copy, a clone, it's whatever, but it is Scarlet wearing her standard GI Joe attire.
I thought that was the end of the issue when I saw that.
I did as well. I thought that's going to be it. Because this is a stand-up. What's going on here? Who is real? Who is the real Scarlet? Because even when I read the first issue, for a moment I thought that the Scarlet we'd been following was the fake. I thought that this was, one of those series where even though she was fake, because she was so like Scarlet, she would find a way to get to freedom.
Yeah.
What she didn't realize is once she got to freedom, the real Scarlet, who'd just been waiting on there, would actually put her out of her misery. It's very confusing. You actually have to read the commentary to figure out exactly who's who.
That is a cool image though, that.
That's amazing.
And the way there's the impression of mist there, just by the fact that they both don't have feet. That looks so good.
Did you just for a moment, did you think Rob Liefeld?
I can see what you mean, yeah.
The feet missing on but then again, a page later, we do get foot action, and feet have been in the comic beforehand, so I don't think that's done on purpose. I think you're right. I think it's just for this misty effect. It just looks lovely as a single image. And when you see the pencil in the background, and you realize that Tom has literally kind of scribbled across the page, and he's gotten away with it, and you think, God, how does he do that?
Atmosphere to it as well.
Yeah.
Cool. It's just by the fact as well that they're just static, just stood there facing each other, not a word's being said, no commentary, no big words or dialogue or anything. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, they don't need to. They can take the measure of each other in an instant, and then they can go for it.
But yeah, I definitely thought that was it for the end of the issue, that one.
So then you turn the page and it turns out there's a whole lot more fighting. And it's even. It's more than even. The two Scarlets proceed to beat the bejeez out of each other. They both aim the same kick at each other and manage to knock each other down. They both use their swords at the same time. They both whip out the daggers. They both cut themselves to pieces. And Scarlet the only bit that you really get from Scarlet is just one little kind of nod to herself in which she says, "You blew it." And she's talking to Cobra here. "You blew it. You made a copy of me when you should have made an improvement. One of us is going to bleed out before the other. All I got to do is not die." So she's prepared to throw herself on the line and take this person out if it means pushing herself very, very close to the limit. And she knows she can do that because she is, in her heart of hearts, a tougher person. And then we get the final page. I think this is the final page. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the bit where I had to go to the commentary to actually figure out what happened here. So, Scarlet wins that battle. She beats the other Scarlet. We don't know the situation. We don't know if it's death. We don't know why, how, or what. It really is left in the dark. But what we do see is our Mohawk Scarlet, who we are assuming is the real Scarlet, and she finds the power in Scorponok. Now, the reason that she's been seeing these ghosts is because somebody betrayed a population. And these ghosts are still haunting the ruins, and the person who betrayed it is the person in charge of Scorponok, which is the war criminal Zarak. Obviously, folks will know Zarak was the original headmaster partner, so it makes sense. The race that these guys took out, Zarak's own race, was the Neblons. Obviously, Nebulons, another nod. But Scarlet has won her battle, and she goes straight for Zarak. Because the ghosts are helping her, she takes him out, and suddenly she is in control of Scorponok, one of the biggest creatures, and a human is in charge of it. So what does she do? What was the other bit of her dream at the start that she saw? There was the attacking the the lizard men. There was bowing down in front of a prime, which she's now got in front of her. But the other thing was that using her hands, she picks up a bumblebee head.
Ah, yeah.
So at the end of the issue, in front of a prime is probably wondering what on earth is going on, because we've not really had anything to do. This is like a Transformers comic without Transformers in it. Prime drops down to his knees and gratefully accepts the head of Bumblebee returned to him by Scarlet, who is now in control of Scorponok. Prime has Bumblebee's body there, so finally we're going to get put back together. And that's kind of the end of it. We get the title, which was Headmasters, which is all done in original Transformers font. The Autobots are there in one piece. And it looks like, even though it's not resolved much, we have at least got our Joes, our main Joes, and our main Autobot Transformers together. So now they've got to look to Earth and Megatron. Wow. What did you think when you saw that finale? Apart from
when she just finds Zarak. Like creepy with all the skulls behind him as well. That's a really sort of frightening, creepy image. But between that and the last panel, it's happened before where we've had like panel to panel we feel like there's been a panel missed, but this felt like maybe a couple of pages have been missed in between what's happened, what she done, but you can piece it all together. But if you just read through it straight, it doesn't really make sense until you kind of think about it. And this issue really does make you think after it as well. I found myself thinking about it quite a lot with, like, what was that bit for? What was happening there? There's a lot to it. There really is, but it's kind of a good setup for next issue as well. It's kind of a story, it's sort of a one-shot issue itself.
Yeah, it is, definitely. It's a Spotlight Scarlet. It feels like a Spotlight.
Yeah.
But
it's kind of a standalone, yeah. But
as well, there's so many things, like when she confronts herself. I mean, my imagination just went off, and okay, you could blame the editing process for the podcast last week, but I was like, so is this the real character? Is this the fake character? Is this the imaginary character? Is this her battling herself? Is that a real person?
I think that's one of the main strengths of this series, though. It's getting the reader to use their imagination. It's not laying everything out on a plate for you. You've got to actually use your imagination and piece everything together and just fill in the gaps. But it just makes for such an unusual but at the same time awesome kind of reading experience. Just thoroughly enjoyed it, and I thought it was a great ending that I wasn't expecting. Like I said at the beginning, just wasn't expecting so much of this stuff to happen.
And when you get this scattergun approach to, let's face it, the rest of last issue, I think I was saying during the recording, and then we jump to space, and then we jump to Cybertron, and then we jump to a dream dimension, then we jump to the sea. With this one, it's the strongest narrative flow from beginning to end that we've had. But there's so much darkness in it.
Yeah, it's the story itself. Yeah.
The audience accepts that Scarlet has either killed or allowed to burn her own children. And we accept that. Because the husband is killed as well. We accept that she's not a psycho with a sword, that she's still a real person. I mean, if they turned around at the end of this, say issue, 20 or whatever, and go, yeah, she was actually in our hospital all the time, and she genuinely was deluded, there are going to be so many nasty things that she's done.
Yeah.
But this is... So, Joe, how would you... I know we always we talk with comics, we go through the writing and then we go through the art, etc. But, I mean, we've kind of covered the writing because it's so plot heavy. But what do you think about the different, page tones in this issue? The fact that we've got splash pages, is this the best issue of artwork so far?
I'm not sure if I'd say it's the best issue of artwork. I always prefer it where there's tons of stuff going on, whereas this is more sort of human-based than robot-based as well. I always enjoy the robots more just because I'm a bigger Transformer fan, but the way the artwork is used, like I was saying about the party scene, just... The colouring, he uses so many tricks that just work so well in telling a story and getting emotions and atmospheres across. It's just, it's kind of mind-blowing just how versatile an artist Tom is. The page where she kills her husband and when his throat gets slit, it's like the page is split in half. It's just, the layouts as well, it's just so imaginative and it's just, He's
still managing on issue 7 to reinvent stuff.
Yeah, because we were wondering, weren't we? I remember one of the first reviews we did, might have been issue 2. It's like how long can they keep this sort of momentum up and this craziness? But it's reaching such a level now that you're just sort of accepting it's happening.
Yeah,
and you're fully immersed in the world. And it just seems almost natural that this kind of stuff is going on, even though it's more like when you take a step back and look at it, it's more like a trippy psychedelic dream. But we're just accepting it at this point. It's like, yeah, we're on board. Let's do it.
I haven't plucked up the courage to buy the first collected works of Transformers GI Joe. I think that would melt my brain doing it. This if they follow on, if the next issue is half as tense as this, it's going to be a hell of a run. The only concern I've got is that not enough people are giving it a go. And Tom hasn't helped it by missing a couple of months. Let's face it.
Yeah, that's my worry, that if someone picks this up and just reads it once, like you can read, say, another issue of Transformers and just be like, yeah, we know what's happening, it's pretty laid out, yeah, this is happening, that's happening. But if you pick this up, it could go over your heads, like over the first read, like it did mine. Well, the majority of it kind of went over my head, but I was so intrigued, had to read it again. And then things start becoming clear, but to a more casual reader, if you're just reading it once, you think, what the hell is this? And it could really put you off, but you're missing out because it's G.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, it is just stunning in the way that he's doing it. And if he could just keep to a slightly better schedule, or maybe even maybe they just say, look, this is going to be bi-monthly. I'd be happy with that. But, it's been a year since Free Comic Book Day and Transformers GI Joe.An.
Yeah.
And a year later we're on issue 7. And you can tell, even it's going a little bit outside here what we normally say on the podcast, but even with the people who tune in and listen to the GI Joe reviews, that interest is waning. So we're going to have to see as well if the Joe fans are still buying into this. I hope they do, because I've noticed as well, like the covers at the beginning of this issue, we didn't have our comic tie-in covers. We didn't have our retailer tie-ins.
Yeah.
So the stuff with Jamie and Ula, I think it's Yesteryear Comics, didn't have those. So
yeah, I've just realised that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if things are changing for the series as a whole, and how much more Tom and John will get to do.
It seems though on this series that John and Tom have just been allowed to just let their imaginations run wild and just do whatever they want. They've not got any constraints like other comics. Comics have like toys to sell or whatever. Like we could be argued like we combine awards, things like that. This is just let's make some awesome comic that let's just do the most far out weird thing that we can do, but at the same time it all ties in, and it's just you could it's almost like it's entire, it is its own universe, but it's so Joe, I'd say this is basically hardly anything to do with Transformers anymore, this issue at least. And they've been reimagined so much. It's just like it's just coming across as so fresh and so its own thing that I just don't want people to be put off by it. It should be sort of viewed as its own comic almost, away from those brands, I think.
It's always very tricky kind of talking about, like when I say, I think fans should do this, because as I've been reminded before, I can't speak for the comic book fans, but in my opinion, if people like some of the regen stuff and accepted that art, which I'm sorry, some of it was very, very storyboard-esque, very, very bland and dry. It did improve when Guido came on, but I mean, some of those earlier issues were really by the book. If you can get that, and you can get the storyline as well, which is quite slow paced, didn't do much, and you don't like this, and yet the art isn't a million miles away different. It's maybe a slightly different style, but it's still in this very similar spirit, and the story is as intense as anything you will get anywhere else. This is up there with the complexity of More Than Meets the Eye. Just people aren't interested in it because of Scioli's artwork.
This is high sci-fi though, and yeah, people have their own tastes. I know some people have been put off by the artwork or the sort of way the stories are being told or laid out, but it's just so creative, and it's plain just what it is I like so much about it, but it just makes me think, and it sparks my imagination like a lot of other comics don't do. So it's still my favourite Transformers series at the moment, even though, like I say, you probably couldn't even really class this issue as a Transformers comic. They barely feature in it, and when they do, they're so different to what we're used to. But that's what we need. That's what we need after 30 years. We need these kind of things.
Yeah,
We need progression.
And that's the ironic thing, isn't it? It's a comic done in the style of Silver Age.
Yeah.
Is just as progressive in many ways as More Than Meets the Eye is. As much as Transformers was doing when it's not doing Hasbro tie-in stuff, and the stuff that the Wingblade team are doing. So it's right up there. Just hoping that it continues to get a shot. Now, Joe, what would you give this from mark out of 5?
I think it goes without saying from I've been speaking about it that I've just enjoyed it so much. I'd have to give it a 5. I absolutely love this series, and this issue, it just there's shocks in it, surprises, the creativity, the way the story runs. There's darkness, there's light, there's little scenes of comedy, although not so many in this issue. But the story itself, I mean, it really did remind me of the Truman Show. It reminded me of Terminator 2. Some sort of, the weirdest 80s sci-fi you can think of, but it all makes sense at the end, and that's the important thing. It can look like it's not making any sense, but it does. It really does. And I did need the commentary at the end to kind of make sense of it, and then a few more reads. Has to be a 5. Absolutely love it. And long may it continue.
Same for me, has to be said. 5. This actually did quite disturb me when I read it the first time because of the
It's like a nightmare, isn't it?
It is. And there are elements as well. The artwork is it's Tom's style, but there are so many things as well where he's taking on other artists, and I know people say, it's the same with Livio and his work. Like Tom's work is very basic, very, very kiddish, very childish, et cetera, et cetera. There are an awful lot of sections of pages in this where the artwork is actually the other way. It's so incredibly detailed. It's so moody. There's so much done with shadow in this issue, especially with Scarlet. We both talked about when she's cleaning the dinner plates. It's the most basic scene, and yet we both got this sense of coming from it because
dread and atmosphere, yeah.
And there's a whole ton of little nods and whatever's, Easter eggs from Tom, but it is a really good issue. I just wonder if those couple of months that they missed bringing them out, I wonder if that's done a lot of harm in the long term. But yeah, fair play, Joe. I never realized that Mutt actually hits his own dog with a copy of the comic.
Yeah, that was awesome, wasn't it?
That's just insane.
I've never seen anything like that before.
The only thing that would have topped that, because of course the first thing I saw when I looked at that was, that's Ultra Magnus. If that had been a copy of More Than Meets the Eye, I would have laughed my socks off. And the fact as well that when he hits his dog, it's almost like the GI Joe logo.
Yeah, the whack.
Unbelievable. Anyway, listen, mate, thank you so much for joining me for this one.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Really enjoyed talking about this series. Love it.
It's
so much to talk about. There's so much to talk about, it's so hard to explain.
What we're going to do as well is, we've obviously been talking about this as Transformer fans, and it's a struggle when we're filling in the gaps on the Joe side of it. So we are reaching out to a couple of Joe fans to come on board with us and maybe give us their perspective on this, because again, there seems to be a very similar sort of feeling on their side that this is art for only a few people, not everyone's getting it, even though this is, teaming up our franchises. And it might be something that the movies follow as well, with rumors that the expanded Transformers cinematic universe might include the GI Joes. So you never know. But yeah, Joe,
is that true?
It's a possibility at the moment, because with the Joe movie line being pretty much in the coffin, GI Joes are not being produced at the moment. The lines are kind of shutting up. They've stopped production.
Yeah.
This might be the way to bring Joes back into a more positive media, even though, let's face it, the Joe films weren't as bad as the Transformer films.
I thought them films were alright. I thought
Yeah,
they were pretty good.
they just didn't do the numbers that the Michael Bay's robots did. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, until next time, Joe, thank you very much for joining me, and I'm
Oh, my
sure
pleasure.
we'll come back for GI Joe.An and more hilarious nonsensicalness from Mr. Scioli. And also as well, if you're up for it, we'll do another classics as well soon.
Yeah.
Because we've got a battle between Shockwave and Megatron to cover. To
Bring
you
it
guys
on.
at home, thank you. If you don't normally join us for this review, I have kind of hinted on, I think it's last week's show as you're listening to this, that I would like you to listen in. So if you've managed to make it this far into a Transformers GI Joe review, thank you so much. And we'll see you again for another edition of the Underbase. Until then, take care. Goodbye.
Cheers, bye.
Underbase complete. Cease transmission.